Hi, beautiful souls. How are you? How are you is one of the most common forms of greeting. And how many of us actually really use it consciously, like really consider those words as they come out of our mouth and what they mean? Because I feel that it's something that is just said without really a lot of consideration. We get used to greeting, hi, hiya, you're right. How you doing? How are you? And I love language. I love words and I love to meditate on words. I like to experience where they feel in my body, whether I can feel them in my heart and that they make me feel good, or whether they're those sort of like little building blocks that you need in your vocabulary, but they don't really do much, or I don't really feel them that much. And then I have to question myself, why do I not feel them that much? And some of you will be very much aware that we are moving towards New Earth. Some experiencing New Earth. I've experienced glimpses of New Earth. And whilst this might seem bizarre, given that there is still conflict and heaviness on the Earth plane, on our beautiful Gaia, things are also lightening up. And I think that many of us can relate to the fact that sometimes stuff has to come to the surface before it can be cleared. And that's really what's going on Gaia. And moving forwards to New Earth, how do we plan to communicate with one another? I used to swear a lot, and occasionally I still do, because it's quite onomatopoeic. You know, as you say some words, when they come out, they really do. You feel the force of that word. But let's be real, it's not exactly high vibrational language. But it certainly is authentic. There is authenticity in those words when people say them, and they really mean it. But you think about the purity of a child when a baby is born. Babies don't come out with that language. They come up with purity, and the first words they say are generally things like mum or dad, mama, daddy, mama, dada, and it's just a much purer language. My first words, one of them was bear, and I love that one of my first words was an animal. So I'm exploring language and exploring my own language and how it makes me feel and how I want to develop it moving forwards, because we are changing. Humanity is changing. We can't stay being in the old ways, in the old paradigms, if we want to move through to New Earth, because we won't be a vibrational match. So there's lots of aspects of us that we would want to consider and to meditate upon. And I'm not saying that anybody needs to do any of this. You do what you feel is right for you when the time is right for you. If that time comes, who knows? You just basically do what resonates with you, yeah? And I'm not saying what is right or wrong. There's no right or wrong to any of it. It's just preference. It's just where we are on our path, what we feel works for us. But I am considering this little Lantos worrying about in his bed. I am really considering the choice of my words. And in amongst things like light language, right now I'm puppy sitting for my friend Eileen, and I've got her little baby here. He's a tiny weeny little baby dachshund, and he is called Edgar. And he's all curled up, and he was very, very active when he first got here because everything was exciting. Then he kept on wanting to go into Lanto's bed, and I was like, no, Lanto doesn't want that, because you could quite tell that Lanto wasn't very interested in that. And he wasn't going to tell him off either, but you could see he was a little bit like, well, this is my bed, this is my safe space. So I started singing in light language to Edgar. And lo and behold, Edgar calmed down and is now sleeping very happily. Just sleeping very happily, like a very good little boy. But I will have to wake him up soon because it's his lunchtime. Soon. Bless him. So yeah, I just wanted to share this. How are you? How else might you ask somebody how they're doing? And what do you expect them to say in return? And if they do say something awful, like all of the woes of the world, how are you going to direct that in a way that helps them to see what they're saying and uplift them from it? So like, say for example, they are feeling really, really bad. Well, first of all, it'll probably help them that they've shared it, but how can you assist them so that they don't go away just repeating the same thing to the next person that comes along, but that they feel a little bit better? Like, so share some light into the conversation. Yeah, I mean, how much do you consider your own language? Is it something you've ever looked at? Are there any particular words that really make you feel great? I love mellifluous. I love that word. I think it's so beautiful. Definitely one of my favorite words. Yeah. What do you feel needs to change in the way that you speak, even the way you put your pauses? I remember years ago, this was when I was living in Catalonia, and I was doing this festival about poems of the world, and I had to say a poem on the stage, and my Catalan is not hot, but I'd managed to learn enough that I was able to go up and announce who I was and the poem that I was going to be reading, and then of course saying it in English. But I was a bit nervous, to be honest, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I must remember all my Catalan and whatever. And also to do the poem justice, because reading out something when you're nervous, you can often lose sight of the gaps, and it's the gaps between the words that actually help the language to come alive. So sometimes people can go blah, 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 and you might get the gist, but you don't always get the gist, because you need those spaces in between the words. You might think you get it, and you might get it, but when you listen to it, how does it make you feel? There's so much more to language than just like, tell you this, you tell me that. There's how it makes you feel, where those words sit in your body. Do any of those words jar on you? Do any words actually, when you say them, feel not so great to you? It's a lovely thing to meditate upon, and to consider, and which words bring you so much joy and you think, oh, I really want to use those again. And if you have a dictionary, and just writing down new words and taking time to sort of go, oh, that's a lovely word, isn't it? I must make sure I use that somewhere in my day. And how can I use that word in my day? Sometimes it's not always easy to use certain words in your day, but this is just a little video to explore language and to put it out there, that next time you see somebody and you say, how are you? Perhaps you might want to consider another way of greeting them, and consider all of the things that you say most frequently, and whether they still sit with you, or whether you might want to change them to other ways of communicating. How are you? Anyway, peace and love, and take care.